What's happening? What up? What it do? That's for sure. But everybody in my city say, what up, doe? What up? What up, doe? What up? What up, doe? What's going on, y'all? What's going on? Let's start it off like we always do with our little copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act, 1976, allowance is made for the fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research, y'all. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use, y'all. And again, I don't own any rights to any music you might hear throughout this demonstration or live. You know what I'm saying? Let me shout out to the replay gang. Salute to the replay gang. Leave yours truly a comment in the biggest I know. Let us know what you think, you know. Everybody coming in and out of the live, if you could kindly take whatever finger you would like, real smooth like, real cool like, and tap on that thumbs up button for your girl in the biggest I know, you know. And to the bushwatchers, yes, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you. Take whatever finger you would like, real smooth like, real cool like, and tap on that thumbs up button for yours truly in the biggest I know. Y'all know. You know, yeah, so we started our tour earlier, y'all, but, you know, so we got a flat tire, and then found out we had a bunch of people on the bus that, you know, lied, didn't have the correct credentials, so we had to turn the motherfucker back around, and we got to start all over, you know? We had to start all over, because, you know, it just is what it is. When you know better, you do better type shit, but, so we got to start all over, and I got to the right team now, you know? We are gonna kick it off. We had to go all the way east, y'all. All the way east to Maryland, the state of Maryland, y'all. So let's pick off where we left off on our tour. Because I know there's a lot going on in the Detroit and Michigan, you know, but there's a lot going on everywhere. So we decided to take a break from Michigan and go around the world. Well, not really, just some, you know, certain states I decided to pick, you know. Luck of the draw. To see what's going on around the world, you know? So let's see what's going on in Maryland, y'all. See what Maryland be having going on. Again, we know we got it going on in the D-Ski. Pray for us. Chill on us. Pray for us.
Number 1, Zakiya Latrice Avery. Zakiya Latrice Avery was 28 years old when she was arrested in Germantown, Maryland in January 2014. A mother of 4, Avery worked as a pharmacy technician and was known to friends and family as soft-spoken and attentive toward her children. Publicly, she presented as a caring parent navigating the difficulties of single motherhood following a separation from her children's father. But beneath this exterior, Avery battled long-standing mental health challenges, including hospitalizations for delusions and mood instability. In the months before the tragedy, Avery became increasingly consumed by spiritual fears. She joined a small religious circle she referred to as the Demon Assassins, believing they were engaged in a war against evil spirits. Avery's role within the group was self-appointed commander, responsible for identifying and casting out demons she believed inhabited those around her, even her own children. According to court records, she claimed to see black clouds hovering over their bodies and eyes that turned dark signs she interpreted as possession. On the night of January 17, 2014, Avery acted on those beliefs. Inside her modest townhouse, she attempted what she described as an exorcism. Convinced her youngest children, 18-month-old Norel and 2-year-old Ziana, were overtaken by demons, she attacked them during the ritual. Their older siblings, ages 5 and 8, were also harmed but survived. Avery later told investigators she believed she was saving their souls rather than committing harm. Neighbors first grew alarmed when they noticed unusual behavior outside the home, including a child left unattended in a car. Hours later, another neighbor spotted a bloody knife and called 911. When police entered the home, they discovered 2 deceased toddlers and 2 critically injured siblings. Avery fled briefly but was quickly apprehended nearby. The case shocked Maryland and drew national media attention. Prosecutors initially charged Avery with multiple counts of first-degree murder and attempted murder. During legal proceedings, psychiatric evaluations revealed diagnoses of bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder, with experts concluding she had been experiencing psychosis during the incident.
Can you even see me right now? I don't think it's your screen. It's your vision. You ran out of contacts again, didn't you? Honestly, that used to be me every few months. I lived in a permanent blur. And I just kept wearing my glasses. But then I started ordering from 1-800-CONTACTS, and it made the whole process easy. I uploaded my prescription in seconds. They verify everything for you, look up your insurance benefits, and have a best price guarantee. They have millions of lenses in stock, including my brand. They even have...
In 2016, the court found Avery not criminally responsible and committed her to a maximum security psychiatric hospital rather than prison, where she remains indefinitely. Psychologists interpreting Avery's case describe her actions as delusionally motivated, an act of misguided protection rooted in religious paranoia rather than malice. She appeared calm in court, offering little outward remorse, but consistently claiming she believed she was saving her children from evil. The tragedy leaves an unsettling question. When love, faith, and psychosis collide, how do we measure responsibility? Avery's case remains a haunting example of devotion distorted by delusion. A mother certain she was rescuing her children, yet forever remembered for taking them from the world. Number 2, Morgan Lane Arnold. Morgan Lane Arnold was just 17 at the time of February 2016, having pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in the death of her father, 58-year-old Dennis Lane, a well-known real estate executive and blogger from Ellicott City, Maryland. At the time of the crime in May 2013, she was only 14 and a high school student. Before the tragedy, Morgan lived as a typical teenager. Her mother described her as quiet, creative, and close to family. She had no known criminal history and seemed socially engaged, keeping friendships and school interests. She did not present a public image marked by danger or instability. Signs of emotional turmoil began to emerge from Morgan's private journals and conversations. Prosecutors later noted that she had grown resentful toward her father, claiming she felt controlled and frustrated by her home life. As a young teen, she reportedly struggled with mental health issues. Her mother publicly stated that Morgan had significant psychological needs and had been denied appropriate care. These unresolved tensions appeared to escalate over time, culminating in planning episodes. In May 2013, Morgan orchestrated a chilling plan. She invited her then boyfriend, 19-year-old Jason Bulmer, to her father's home. She unlocked a basement screen door to allow him entry. Bulmer entered carrying a butcher knife and approached her sleeping father. In the early morning hours, Dennis Lane was stabbed multiple times and died inside his home. Bulmer later told police, "I am her boyfriend. I stabbed him and she told me to." Prosecutors uncovered text messages in which Morgan instructed him on how and when to carry out the attack, including targeting the throat up to 10 times. The investigation unfolded swiftly. Police arrested Bulmer inside the home covered in blood. They later arrested Morgan. Electronic devices seized from her home revealed the extent of premeditation, showing planning discussions over weeks. The case gained local and national attention, sending ripples through both the real estate blogging community and the wider Maryland public. In May 2015, Morgan pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in a deal.
Dang, Maryland, y'all got it going on in Maryland. Shell baby, salute, salute, salute. Thanks for pulling up on yours truly and the biggest M I know. She's dealing with some family matters. Please say a prayer for Big M, y'all. On my Facebook, I'm sharing a GoFundMe. Just say a prayer. She's dealing with some family matters. Everybody say a big prayer for the biggest M I know. Please. Thank you for pulling up on me, Shell baby. So basically, we're on tour. We packed our bags and we drove up out of Michigan, and we drafted a team, and we got PIs, we got detectives, we got lawyers, and we got the whole bus full, and we're going around because we know it's bad in Detroit. But by golly, There's a lot going on everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to be on tour for a couple weeks, hitting some states, you know, checking out all the crime, and we're going to try to crack some cases while we're at it, you know, show baby. So let's get back to it. We had to start way east. We're in Maryland, y'all. Next state will be Pennsylvania, PA. Yeah.
That dropped additional charges. Though initially charged as an adult, her defense argued for her youth and psychological immaturity. Ultimately, in January 2016, a Howard County judge sentenced her to 30 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation.
Yeah, it's on my page. I shared it. Okay, yeah, it's on my page. Yeah, so I appreciate it. And everybody just say a prayer. You know, Big M is strong, but her family, they're just going through it. So just pray for them. Please keep the biggest M I know in your prayers, man. Please do. So yeah, we're in Maryland right now. When we leave Maryland, we're going to PA, y'all. And we going to crack some cases, or we just going to die of some cases just to do it. Because we're sick of Michigan. We needed a break. We needed a vacation. We wanted to go see what be going on in some other states, you know? Thanks for joining us. Buckle up, y'all. Never know what's going to happen.
Upon release, Bulmer received a matching 30-year sentence. Experts and Morgan's defense emphasized her emotional immaturity, unresolved trauma, and lack of mental health support. Her mother described the act as the result of a deeply troubled psyche, asserting that Morgan's actions did not occur in a vacuum and reflected severe psychological distress.
There are a lot of amazing, professionals throughout Empower. If you don't have the experience, Empower is going to teach you as long as you are a hard worker. If you love to learn, if you love new things and new technology, this is absolutely the right industry.
Prosecutors opposed an insanity plea, citing the calculated nature of the crime and clear planning. Morgan's story raises urgent questions about age mental health and justice. How do we hold someone accountable when they're still developing emotionally and cognitively? How should mental illness factor into punishment versus rehabilitation at such a young age? As the courtroom doors closed on her youth, Morgan Lane Arnold's case became more than a sensational headline. It became a tragic portrait of a troubled teenager whose pain planning and misplaced loyalty led to a horror no one could reclaim. The final question lingers when youth love resentment and mental illness converge. How thin is the line between victim and perpetrator? Number 3, Anne-Marie Anastasi. Anne-Marie Anastasi was 44 at the time she entered a judicial proceeding in December 2016. She was known publicly as a long-term resident of Lothian, Maryland, a mother of 5, and a former office worker. Before the events that unfolded in October 2015, she was seen by neighbors and acquaintances as a quietly suffering mother, married for nearly 2 decades, but increasingly isolated by marital tension. She maintained a modest public presence and was not known to the authorities for violent behavior. The relationship with her husband, Anthony Anastasi Jr., had become fraught. Police documents and pretrial interviews revealed years of domestic conflict with Anthony, continuing a romantic relationship with their live-in tenant, Jacqueline Riggs, a woman in her mid-20s who had become romantically involved with both Anne and Anthony. Those involved in the case described a strained love triangle. Anne allegedly felt betrayed and desperate, viewing Riggs as an existential threat to her family's stability. Her daughter said Anne had grown afraid, resentful, and emotionally volatile in the weeks before the tragedy. Text messages later discovered showed Anne in contact with her teenage daughter and her daughter's then boyfriend, discussing plans that would soon lead to death. On October 5th, 2015, at the family's home in Lothian, Anne reportedly called 911, claiming her husband had committed suicide. Police responded to find Anthony deceased in their shared bedroom with a gun nearby. Meanwhile, in the basement lived Jacqueline Riggs, who was also found dead. Initially staged as a murder-suicide, the scene raised suspicion. Forensic investigators discovered inconsistencies. The weapon next to Anthony did not match the caliber of the bullet, and gunshot residue was detected on Ann's clothing and body. In the basement, evidence indicated Jacqueline had died from multiple wounds consistent with an attack. Ballistics and forensic analysis confirmed these were homicides, not self-inflicted death. Authorities subsequently took Ann, her 13-year-old daughter, and the daughter's 18-year-old boyfriend, Gabriel Struss, into custody. Cell phone records and text exchanges showed Ann had contacted Struss, instructing him to commit the murders and arrange details. Struss later admitted he carried out the shootings and stabbing, allegedly believing he was doing so at Ann's direction. According to investigators, Ann used her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend to carry out the attacks, manipulating minors into executing her plan. The legal case moved quickly. In December 2016, Anastasi entered an Alford plea to 2 counts of first-degree murder and use of a firearm during a violent crime. An Alford plea allows a defendant to acknowledge that the prosecution's evidence is sufficient for conviction while still asserting innocence. In May 2017, the court handed down effective consecutive sentences. She must serve 60 years behind bars, the full portion remaining active her husband and his lover's deaths, each carrying concurrent terms, all but 40 years suspended for one, all but 60 for the other. Throughout the case, State's Attorney Wes Adams described her as a cold and calculating figure who destroyed multiple lives by manipulating young people into committing violence. Prosecutors argued she orchestrated the murders with calculated detachment, while defense attorneys raised claims of domestic abuse, psychological distress, and emotional breakdown over time. The jury and judge ultimately found her culpable mathsing manipulation with punishment. Ann's motivations seem rooted in jealousy, fear, and a sense of betrayal.
Dang, so far this investigation is pretty dang intense. There's evil everywhere, y'all. So again, chill out in Detroit and pray for Detroit, because there's a lot going on everywhere we go. So we're going to keep listening though, y'all. Keep listening.
Experts noted her ability to orchestrate such violence using her daughter's boyfriend as a trigger man reveals a deeply disturbed capacity for control. Psychological reports suggest she felt powerless in her relationship and sought to reclaim agency through extreme means. Her case leaves us with haunting echoes, a tangled love triangle, shattered families, and a mother who turned to manipulation and murder instead of confrontation or healing. Anne-Marie Anastasi's story is a stark example.
Dang, so there is like so many more stories out there. Dang, not another mom, man. These moms choosing these men over their children. Diabolical, y'all. Not only doesn't it happens not only in Detroit, it happens, we're in our first day on tour. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. Okay. I see you, Maryland.
When emotional turmoil, jealousy, and calculated planning converge, how far can someone fall before redemption becomes impossible?
Don't buy that camera that's going viral to keep burglars away. Do this instead. For only $22 a month, I got a premium.
Number 4, Brandy Upshur. Brandy Upshur was 40 years old when she was tried and convicted in 2018. A resident of Salisbury, Maryland, she had no known criminal history prior to the fatal incident. Publicly, Upshur lived what appeared to be a typical life, a mother and community member, until July 2017, when her life and the lives of those around her changed forever. Tensions reportedly grew after financial disputes surfaced. Prosecutors later revealed that Upshur believed her longtime boyfriend, 32-year-old Tavin Moloch, had taken money from her. Friends and acquaintances described her as increasingly agitated in the days before the incident. While no formal psychological evaluation was publicly disclosed, the emotional strain and financial grievance appear to have triggered a planned confrontation that would escalate beyond control. On July 30th, 2017, Upshur orchestrated a group assault on Moloch. According to court documents, she gathered several associates under the premise of confronting him over the alleged theft. What began as a planned robbery turned into a violent group attack. Moloch was chased through the streets, assaulted by multiple people, and ultimately stabbed. He collapsed on a front lawn and later died from his.
Dang, Maryland, you sound like Detroit. You sound like Detroit, you know? Again, we know we got it going on in Detroit. Chill on us. Pray for us. Again, we're on tour. I don't know when we're going to be back in Michigan because we got like 5 more states to hit, y'all. And by golly, there are some criminals out here, y'all. So let's keep listening.
Injuries. The investigation moved quickly. Witnesses reported seeing a group chasing and attacking Moloch, with one recalling someone shouting about retrieving money. Another neighbor described seeing the victim flee to a porch before collapsing. Forensic evidence and witness testimony soon tied the assault to Upshur and her group of accomplices. Her trial was handled by a judge rather than a jury. In May 2018, the court found her guilty of first-degree felony murder, robbery, conspiracy, and related charges. Prosecutors described Upshur as the instigator, the person who set events in motion and directed the fatal confrontation. During sentencing, Moloch's family expressed both sorrow and relief, stating that justice had finally been served after a harrowing year. In July 2018, Upshur received a life sentence in the Maryland Department of Corrections. She will not be eligible for parole for decades. The judge emphasized the severity of her role in orchestrating the crime, noting that the planned robbery directly led to a man's death and devastated multiple families. Psychological motivations appear rooted in resentment and a belief of betrayal. Testimony revealed that Upshur repeatedly demanded repayment from Moloch and encouraged others to retrieve her money. There is no public record of a mental illness defense or official psychological diagnosis, suggesting her actions were driven by anger and deliberate planning rather than psychosis. Brandy Upshur's story highlights how financial conflict and personal grievances can spiral into irreversible tragedy. It raises an unsettling question: how does someone cross the line from confrontation to orchestration of a killing? And can that line ever be crossed back? Number 5, Bobby Sue Hodge. Bobby Sue Hodge was 63 at the time she was convicted by a Harford County jury in October 2022. A resident of Edgewood, Maryland, she rented a basement room in a crowded townhouse that housed multiple occupants. In the months prior, she appeared isolated and was reportedly facing eviction. Neighbors described her as tense and troubled, often leaving the kitchen stove on and making veiled threats about burning the home. The situation worsened in the weeks before May 2019. Hodge's eviction loomed, creating emotional strain and desperation. Investigators also reported her making repeated comments about wanting to set the house ablaze, a sign that the conflict had escalated beyond mere frustration. These remarks, combined with her precarious housing situation and growing hostility, suggest a motive grounded in perceived threat to her security and stability. In the early hours of May 9th, 2019, at approximately 2:30.
Notorious. Y'all got some notorious criminals in Maryland, y'all. Why, by golly? It's not only Detroit. But I know we definitely got it going on, but by golly, it's everywhere. So again, I don't know when we'll be back in Michigan because we got a lot of states to cover. So, but yeah, let's keep listening, Maryland.
30 a.m., a fire broke out at the Edgewood townhouse. Hodge lived in the basement and was seen moving away from a couch on the second floor just before the flames spread. She escaped, fully clothed and carrying personal belongings. Meanwhile, 3 residents on the third floor perished from smoke and burns. A 4th victim was rescued but died from injuries sustained 8 months later. 3 other occupants leapt from upper floors to escape, sustaining serious injuries. Fire crews responding to the scene discovered multiple homes damaged by the blaze, and investigators determined the fire was intentionally caused by the deliberate introduction of an open flame to combustibles. Police conducted interviews with survivors' neighbors and Hodge herself, while the state fire marshal and federal investigators collaborated on forensic analysis. A pattern emerged that her behavior before and after the fire, combined with witness accounts and fire origin evidence, pointed to arson and deadly intent. Hodge's escape with her possessions unburned and largely unaffected further raised suspicion. At trial, the jury convicted Hodge on 4 counts of first-degree felony murder and 3 counts of second-degree assault related to escaping occupants. The verdict came after a multi-day trial concluding in October 2022. Prosecutors labeled her actions as calculated and vengeful, an act committed in search of retaliation over eviction rather than in panic. Originally sentenced to life prison terms, plus additional years for the assaults, Hodge's conviction was later remanded after an appellate court found procedural errors regarding her representation. She was retried and in July 2025 received a new sentence, 180 years in prison.
Dang, just in 2025, Maryland, whoa. Y'all got some crazy people in your state too. Let's keep listening, y'all.
Prison, 40 years for each murder count, and additional years for assault charges, all running consecutively, ensuring she will remain incarcerated for life. Experts and prosecutors point to revenge born from desperation and perceived injustice as her psychological motivators. Hodge's repeated verbal threats, her behavior leading up to the fire, and her escape strategy suggest a deliberate intention rather than a spontaneous act.
If you've written a book and you're dreaming of publishing it and sharing your story with the world, but you're not quite sure.
While there is no public record of a formal psychological diagnosis, the case reflects a person driven to violence through resentment and fear. This killing fire ripped apart families and upended the lives of survivors. Bobby Sue Hodge's story is a haunting reminder that denial and despair can ignite devastating tragedy. She ignited more than a blaze. She burned trust, safety, and lives. The final question echoes long after sentencing. When displacement and desperation collide, how far can one go before redemption becomes impossible? Number 6, Leandra Kim Matthews. Leandra Kim Matthews was 25 at the time of her conviction in August 2023. She lived in Occoquan, Maryland, and at 19 years old was a young mother. Before the tragedy, Matthews appeared to lead a typical adolescence. She shared a close bond with her twin sister, maintained ties within her neighborhood, and quietly balanced parenthood and life in Montgomery County. In the months leading to March 2017, family tensions escalated. According to prosecutors, Christian Matthews, Leandra's 17-year-old brother, had allegedly threatened her daughter. Investigators later uncovered messages indicating Leandra feared for their safety. Internal family conflict, particularly surrounding her boyfriend Tyson Lipford and Christian's strained relationship with him, reportedly fueled the tension. Her twin sister, LeMay, later told officials that Leandra had insisted Christian had to go, suggesting that her concerns had crossed from fear to a fatal plan. On the early morning of March 21, 2017, Christian was asleep in the basement of the family townhouse in Silver Spring. Around 2:25 a.m., Leandra drove to pick up her boyfriend Lipford and his associate Daniel Howard. She confirmed Christian's bedroom location and access points. Lipford entered the house and strangled Christian while Howard helped restrain him. Afterward, Leandra drove the two away from the scene. When chaos erupted upstairs, her twin sister called 911, pretending to have just discovered the body part of a cover-up planned in advance to mislead police. Detectives quickly grew suspicious of the story. Inconsistencies in statements, combined with digital evidence retrieved from phones, revealed the plot. Text documented step-by-step planning from timing and method to instructions for cleaning up afterward. Eventually, investigators charged Leandra LeMay Lipford and Howard with conspiracy to commit murder and related offenses. Her trial concluded in August 2023 with a jury convicting her of second-degree murder. Prosecutors emphasized her role as the architect of the plan, the driver, the coordinator, and the one who staged the false discovery. In February 2024, Leandra was sentenced to 25 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation upon release. Her twin sister pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact and awaits sentencing, while Lipford is already serving 30 years for carrying out the attack. Howard faces his own proceedings separately. Defense attorneys pointed to a backdrop of alleged abuse and trauma, arguing that Leandra believed she was protecting herself and her child. Psychological experts noted the complicated family dynamics at play, where loyalty, fear, and resentment became dangerously intertwined. Although the court did not accept a full mental health defense, it acknowledged the emotional turmoil present in the family's history. Christian's death shattered the Matthews family and left the community grappling with questions about love, fear, and betrayal. When self-preservation collides with family loyalty, where does justice lie, and how do we measure accountability when the danger feels as real as the bond itself? Number 7, Christina Gale Harnish. Christina Gale Harnish was 45 years old at the time. She pleaded guilty in early 2023 to second-degree murder in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. A resident of Tucson, Arizona at the time of arrest, she had previously lived in Annapolis with her former roommate, Megan Tillman, and Tillman's elderly mother.
Dang, y'all, Detroit ain't the only one. There's a lot going on everywhere, y'all. It's crazy work, huh? So, yeah, let's keep listening, though. Everybody, don't forget, hit that thumbs up button for yours truly and the biggest M I know,
Before the crime unfolded in fall of 2017, Harnish appeared socially engaged roommates involved in a shared household. She wasn't publicly known for violent behavior, and her life seemed unremarkable until it fell apart. The psychological and situational triggers emerged when Megan Tillman, who had supported both Harnish and her co-defendant, William Rice, financially ceased providing assistance. Investigators later described a troubling dynamic. Tillman, vulnerable and, according to defense, intellectually disabled, offered trust and companionship that Harnish and Rice exploited. When the financial support ended, the relationship soured. Prosecutors framed Harnish as someone who betrayed that trust and manipulated a dependent roommate for personal gain. In the fall of 2017, Tillman abruptly disappeared. Her family reported her missing when they lost contact. Suspicious messages and altered social media activity raised concern. In October, human remains washed ashore in Shadyside, confirmed by the medical examiner to be Tillman's. Her disappearance triggered a cold case investigation spanning years. Meanwhile, Rice was observed driving Tillman's car to ATM machines around the time she vanished, while Harnish shared photos of herself with that vehicle while preparing to rehome Tillman's pet.
New episodes Mondays.
Even after all these years, I never tire of this view.
Your favorite community returns.
Action!
With open arms and open hearts.
Do you think they're official?
Hello.
Eventually, the car was found abandoned near a bus depot. When investigators finally connected Rice and Harnish to the scene, both fled Maryland by bus to Arizona, where they remained until their arrest in early 2022. Their extradition back to Maryland led to formal charges. In January of 2023, both Harnish and Rice pleaded guilty in Anne Arundel County Circuit Court to second-degree murder in connection with Tillman's death. Prosecutors described their actions as cruel betrayal enemies disguised as friends who took advantage of a trusting woman until it cost her life. In May 2023, an Anne Arundel County judge sentenced Harnish to the maximum 40 years in prison, calling the crime senseless, thoughtless, and heinous. Rice received an identical sentence. State's attorney Ann Colt Lightus stated that Tillman was a vulnerable woman who was killed by people she trusted. The judge noted the circumstantial nature of the case, but affirmed its strength, holding both defendants fully accountable. Tillman's family, long haunted by uncertainty, expressed relief that justice was finally served. Psychologically, Harnish's motives appear rooted in manipulation and opportunism rather than emotional impulse. Prosecutors and investigators pointed to the exploitation of a vulnerable woman, financial dependence, emotional influence, and betrayal. Defense teams offered explanations involving complex personal history and alleged previous trauma, but experts emphasized deliberate planning and conscious intent rather than precipitating mental breakdown. Her story emphasizes the dark convergence of trust and exploitation. When someone invites you into their life and then leverages that closeness for profit and betrayal, the consequences can be fatal. Christina Harnish's involvement in this case is a chilling example of betrayal masked as intimacy trust destroyed for gain. In the end, one voice still echoes, Megan Tillman is gone, and those she trusted now carry the weight of her absence. The final question lingers. How do we guard against those who cloak manipulation in friendship, and can justice ever heal the betrayal? Number 8, Nicole Michelle Johnson. Nicole Michelle Johnson was 36 years old when she stood before a Baltimore County courtroom in 2023 pleading guilty to the murders of her young niece and nephew. Before her name became synonymous with tragedy, Johnson lived a life largely out of public view. She had no prominent career and was described by neighbors as quiet and reclusive. Her family ties, however, were complex. In 2019, Johnson's sister, struggling with personal challenges, entrusted her with the care of 2 young children, 7-year-old Jocelyn Johnson and 5-year-old Larry O'Neill. At first, this arrangement seemed temporary, but as months passed, the children's mother never reclaimed them, and Johnson's role shifted from caretaker to sole guardian. Over time, cracks began to show. Friends and extended relatives later testified that Johnson appeared overwhelmed and isolated. Financial strain, unstable housing, and a lack of support deepened her stress. Investigators later suggested she may have experienced untreated mental health issues, though no formal diagnosis was recorded in court. Whatever the cause, resentment toward the children seemed to build a tragic brew of frustration and neglect that would ultimately end in catastrophe. The crimes came to light in July 2021. Baltimore County Police pulled Johnson over during a routine traffic stop in Essex. Her car, in disrepair and missing proper registration, was filled with belongings. But what shocked officers was what they found in the trunk: a suitcase and a plastic tote containing the decomposed remains of Jocelyn and Larry. Johnson confessed on the scene. She admitted that more than a year earlier, in May 2020, she struck Jocelyn during a moment of anger. The child died, and Johnson hid her body in the suitcase. 2 months later, Larry died as well, reportedly from illness or neglect, and Johnson placed him in the tote alongside his sister. Autopsies revealed severe malnutrition. Both children weighed barely over 20 pounds, indicating prolonged starvation or neglect. Johnson never sought medical help, never alerted authorities, and continued living with the children's remains in her vehicle for over a year. The discovery horrified the community and investigators alike, raising anguished questions about how such suffering could remain hidden for so long. The legal proceedings concluded in 2023 when Johnson entered a guilty plea to 2 counts of murder. The court sentenced her to life in prison, suspending all but 50 years. This effectively ensures she will spend most of her remaining life behind bars. Parole eligibility, if ever granted, will not come until she is well into her senior years. Nicole Johnson's case underscores the devastating consequences of untreated stress, isolation, and neglect. 2 young lives entrusted to an aunt for safekeeping were instead met with unimaginable betrayal. As the courtroom closed on her sentencing, one haunting question remained: how do children fall through every safety net unnoticed until it is far too late?
Monster Math presents multiplication. Okay, class, let's begin. What is 4 times 3? Click here to try it on Monster Math. Multiplication is the same as repeated addition. Here, we add 4 groups of 3 munchkins. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 4 times 3. 6, 9, 12. So 4 times 3 is equal to 12. Well done! Now try this one. What is 5 times 2? Know the answer? Enter it.
Number 9, Renee Denise Bowman. Renee Bowman was 44 years old when she was convicted in 2010 for the murders of 2 of her adopted daughters. A former resident of Montgomery County, Maryland, Bowman's life had, on the surface, seemed like an act of generosity. She adopted 3 young girls from the foster system, each with special needs, and collected monthly subsidies from the District of Columbia designed to support such adoptions. To outside observers, she appeared to be providing a stable home. But behind closed doors, the reality was far darker. Bowman's personal life was marked by instability. She had filed for bankruptcy only years before the adoption, struggled with employment, and frequently moved homes. Friends described her as private and controlling. Investigators later revealed that Bowman locked her daughters in a room with a reverse doorknob and forced them to use a bucket as a toilet. Early warning signs of neglect and abuse hidden from public view. By 2006, the situation inside the Bowman household turned deadly. Prosecutors argued that Bowman deliberately suffocated her 2 eldest daughters, Minette and Jasmine, then ages 9 and 7. Rather than report their deaths, she placed their bodies in a freezer and continued collecting adoption subsidies. Over the following years, she moved multiple times, transporting the freezer with her each time. To neighbors and social agencies, she maintained the appearance of a single mother, struggling quietly but coping, concealing the horrific truth within her home. The case came to light in September 2008 when Bowman's surviving daughter, then 7 years old, escaped by jumping out of a second-story window. She was discovered bruised and injured by neighbors who alerted authorities. When police entered the home, they uncovered the freezer in the basement. Inside were the remains of Minette and Jasmine, preserved in ice for over 2 years. Autopsies later confirmed the girls had died of asphyxiation. Bowman initially claimed the children had died accidentally, one from starvation and the other from a fall. But investigators gathered testimony from the surviving daughter, physical evidence from the freezer, and even statements Bowman later made to a fellow inmate, ultimately proving intentional murder.
What? A freezer in a what? In the where? Maryland? What? Oh, man. Let's keep listening, y'all.
In 2010, Renee Bowman was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without parole, plus 75 additional years for child abuse and related charges. The judge called her actions brutal, almost beyond human comprehension, condemning the betrayal of trust given to her as an adoptive parent. Bowman offered a muted apology in court, but displayed little visible emotion. Psychologists and prosecutors alike characterized Bowman's motive as a disturbing mix of financial exploitation and cruelty. She had sought subsidies, yet treated the children as burdens rather than family. The Bowman case stands as a haunting reminder systems built to protect vulnerable children can fail sometimes catastrophically, and when a caregiver becomes the very source of harm, the betrayal cuts deeper than any crime against a stranger. Number 10, Josephine Virginia Gray. Josephine Virginia Gray, known in the press as the Black Widow, was 55 when she was finally arrested in 2001 after decades of suspicion surrounding the deaths of 3 men in her life. Born in 1946 and raised in Maryland, Gray grew up in modest circumstances. By the 1970s, she was a mother of 6 and working as a custodian. Outwardly, she appeared ordinary, a woman focused on family and survival. Yet behind closed doors, her relationships were marked by volatility control and whispers of something darker, her alleged use of voodoo to intimidate those around her. The first tragedy struck in March 1974 when Gray's husband, Norman Stribling, was found shot in the head. Friends recalled that Stribling had confided fears for his life, even telling some that his wife had once aimed a gun at him. Despite suspicions, charges never stuck, and Josephine collected $16,000 in life insurance. In the years that followed, Gray married William Robert Gray, a man with whom she had been romantically involved before Norman's death. Their relationship was equally troubled. By 1990, William was estranged and openly telling friends and police that his wife was trying to kill him. He even changed several insurance policies to remove her name. But in November of that year, William Gray was found shot to death in his apartment. Josephine once again collected thousands of dollars in benefits. Her final known victim boyfriend, Clarence Good, shared similar fears. In 1996, he was found shot in the head, his body left in the trunk of his car. Just months earlier, he had taken out a $100 000 life insurance policy, naming Josephine as the sole beneficiary. After his death, she claimed nearly the entire payout. Over 20 years, 3 men, all tied to her romantically, had died violently, and each time she profited financially. What kept her free for so long were the witnesses, family, and acquaintances terrified of her reputation for practicing voodoo. Prosecutors later described a climate of fear where potential testimony dissolved under threats, both real and perceived. Rumors of hexes and curses silenced people for decades, stalling justice. In 2002, Gray was finally convicted not of murder, but of mail-and-wire fraud tied to the insurance payouts. Federal prosecutors used the Slayer's rule, barring individuals from profiting off deaths they caused to secure her conviction. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison, a term reaffirmed after appeal in 2006. Josephine Gray's story is chilling not only for the deaths themselves, but for the manipulation and fear that shielded her for so long. As prosecutors put it, some chapters of her life were written in the blood of 3 men who loved her. The question that lingers is how many warnings must be ignored before patterns become undeniable, and how long can charm and fear hide the truth? Number 11, Kimberly Hricko. Kimberly Hricko was 33 years old when she was arrested for the death of her husband, Stephen Hricko, in what would later be.
Dang, a couple of these took them a minute to get justice. Crazy work. Dang, Maryland, you got it going on too, you know?
Called the murder mystery weekend killing. A surgical technician from Maryland, Kimberly's life outwardly seemed stable, a respectable job, a 9-year marriage, and a daughter. Yet beneath that image, friends described a woman increasingly unhappy, in her relationship confiding that she longed for escape and even hinting at fantasies of life without Stephen. The couple's marriage was strained. They had sought counseling, but arguments persisted over finances, fidelity, and intimacy. Kimberly's co-workers testified later that she had spoken openly about her dissatisfaction and, disturbingly, about wanting her husband dead. These comments, dismissed at first as venting, would take on new weight when tragedy struck. On Valentine's weekend in 1998, the couple checked into a golf resort on Maryland's eastern shore. The getaway featured a playful murder mystery tense play, an ironic backdrop for what was about to unfold. After the performance, guests were meant to solve a fictional crime. Hours later, the fiction turned real. The Hrickos' room caught fire in the middle of the night, and Stephen was found dead inside. Kimberly, appearing distraught, claimed she had left the room during an argument and returned to find it in flames. Initial suspicion of an accident quickly shifted. Autopsy results revealed no alcohol or carbon monoxide in Stephen's system, meaning he died before the fire began. Investigators concluded he had been poisoned with succinylcholine, a surgical muscle relaxant that paralyzes the body and is notoriously hard to detect after death. The drug was readily available in the operating room where Kimberly worked. Prosecutors argued she used it to incapacitate her husband, then set the fire to mask the crime and claim $400 000 in life insurance benefits. Evidence against Kimberly was circumstantial but compelling. Friends testified she had offered money to have her husband killed. Witnesses noted inconsistencies in her story. The unlikely 2-hour drive she claimed she spent lost her insistence on immediate cremation and her unusual interest in the medical examiner's report. These factors painted a picture of premeditation. In January 1999, a jury convicted Kimberly Hricko of first-degree murder and first-degree arson. She was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Appeals followed, but the verdict stood. For Stephen's family, the sentence offered closure, though no measure of justice could undo their loss. Motives in this case remain debated. Prosecutors cited financial gain and resentment towards Stephen. Kimberly maintains her innocence to this day. Was she a calculating killer or a wrongfully convicted woman trapped by circumstantial evidence? As the trial judge observed at sentencing, you sentenced an innocent man to death in the dawn of his life.
Oh, hecky nah. Wrongful convictions in Maryland, too? It doesn't just happen in Detroit. It's happening everywhere, y'all. Crazy work. I'm gonna say this though, y'all, cause we got a long drive. We're headed to another state, so we're gonna get us some food and use the bathroom, and we're gonna go ahead and start this bus up and head to another state, and we're gonna bring awareness on what's going on in all these other states, And by golly, I really thank y'all for joining us on this tour. We don't know when we'll be back in Michigan, because there's a lot going on out here. Because this is America, y'all. So we're going to end it like I always do. Good old Winnie the Poohski, y'all. You're smarter than you think. You're braver than you believe. And you're stronger than you seem, It's all love over here, y'all. It's real, true over here, y'all. And until next time, y'all, be real smooth with it, cool with it, and most importantly, as true as you can be with it. And in my big M voice, peace. And everybody say a prayer for the biggest M I know and her family, please. Salute. Good night, Shell baby. Salute, salute, salute. Lunch was good. Thank you for lunch today. Appreciate you.